The Adamic cycle, in the words of men, was 6,000 years. If this was the real time counting, then Noah is 950 years, but next one is 200 lesser. That's a loss of lifetime changes. All the manifestations are saying worship God. They all call you back to God. What did Christ say to people? If you believed in Moses, you would have believed in me. Because if you truly believed in Moses, we would have seen that what the next one was teaching was the next step to it. I've asked my Christian friends to go read the New Testament cover to cover. Find me one place where Christ himself says, I am God.
And after him there appeared from the Rizwan of the Eternal.
Again, Rizwan of the Eternal the second time, right?
The invisible, the holy person of Salih.
Another Arabian prophet, by the way.
Who again summoned the people to the river of everlasting life. For over 100 years he admonished them to hold fast unto the commandments of God and eschew that which is forbidden.
For 100 years, this one.
His admonitions, however, yielded no fruit, and his pleading proved of no avail. Several times he retired and lived in seclusion. All this, although that eternal beauty was summoning the people to no other than the city of God.
City of God.
Even as it is revealed, and unto the tribe of Thamud, we sent their brother Salih. O my people, said he, worship God.
Worship God.
Ye have none other God beside him. They made reply, O Salih, our hopes
were fixed on thee until now. Forbiddest thou us to worship that which our fathers worshipped?
Truly we misdoubt that whereunto thou callest us as suspicious. All this proved fruitless until at last there went up a great cry, and all fell into utter perdition.
So the timeline, here you can see a pattern itself. Let's say if Noah's 950 years were true. These are coming within few hundreds of each other, by the way. If you read the history of prophets after prophets in the old scriptures, the time frame is getting longer since Christ and after, right? So the last prophet of the Old Testament before Christ is what? Don't quote me on that. I sometimes forget these details, but 300 some years, right? 350 some years before, and then Christ appears. Christ is in the line of those. And then a new dispensation started because he changed the law. Not every prophet changes the law. So Christ's dispensation in God's books, I know people look at it differently, but in God's book, Christ's dispensation lasted for 600 years. Because that dispensation was over the day Prophet Muhammad said, I am, I am, I am. Islamic people are into their 1500 year now, but that dispensation ended the day the Bab said, I am, I am, I am. And the Babi dispensation ended the day Baha'u'llah said, I am, I am, I am, right? So so between priorly, there are times when there is almost like every generation has a prophet because we are so, I don't know, small and childlike that we need that constant stuff. By the time, so far, the Muhammadan dispensation in the modern world has been the longest, 1260 years. From Muhammad to Bab, there's nothing in between. This dispensation will last at least thousands, and Abdul Baha explains that at least 1,000 means at least 1,000. Make sense? It could be 5,000. Not before 1,000, but not literally on that point. God will decide. But the cycle, we are in a new cycle. It will last for how much? Anybody remember? Sorry?
500,000.
500,000 years, yes. 500,000 years. The Adamic cycle, in the words of men, was 6,000 years long. Adamic cycle. we had cycles before. Adamic cycle is not the first one, right? But it's the last one. So if this was the real time counting, then Noah is 950 years, but next one is 200 lesser. That's a loss of lifetime changes. In real life, that doesn't happen. Average life is within tens of years of each other, not hundreds of years of each other. And then the next one is only 100 years all at once, right? So one already needs to pick up on these things when we are reading the old books to say the time frame is counted in somewhat differently by them and not literally the way we do it. Makes sense of Abdul Baha's answer elsewhere that that's what was happening? Because these numbers are mentioned in the books. All right. Then he says, all the manifestations are saying worship God. They all call you back to God. And they all refer you back to your previous book, by the way. What did Christ say to people? If you believed in Moses, you would have believed in me. Because if you truly believed in Moses, we would have seen that what the next one was teaching was the next step to it, so to speak, right? Worship God. They're all calling back to God, not to themselves. I have often, as often as I can, I've asked my Christian friends to go read the New Testament cover to cover. Find me one place where Christ himself says, I am God. Find me one place where he says, I am God or I am Son of God. Nada. Nada. What does he refer to himself as always? Anybody remembers? Read 4 Gospels cover to cover? I don't care what Paul or anybody else says. I'm talking about 4 Gospels. Sorry?
The
I'm
Son?
No, the Christ never called himself the Son of God.
Son of man.
Son of man.
Son of man.
Son of man always. Son of man. Son of man. So take heed. They made reply. This is another key to, O Saleh, our hopes were fixed on thee until now. When you read the stories of the prophets, you will notice that they were the most upright people in their societies. Every one of them had been that way. They looked up to them. They acknowledged their sincerity, their honesty, their well-dealings, ideal human beings in their communities. And yet, as soon as they delivered the message, they became criminals to them. It's quite opposite behavior, because mostly when we make friends in our own lives, when you watch somebody and they're a very honest person, they're a very straightforward person, they're a very sincere person, and they're always there for you, you trust them. Those kind of souls, when they say something, you actually trust them, not the other way around. But you notice and that's how the early believers were too. Those who did believe, they believed because they said that, because you have proven yourself to be an absolutely truthful person. Why would and plus, of course, if you're studying the previous scriptures and trying to live them, but they teach new times, it makes sense to those whose hearts and minds are open. So it's a key of understanding that behavior. And the answer is there. Forbiddest thou us to worship that which our fathers worship? Baha'u'llah elsewhere condemns us, Baha'is, to be Baha'is because your parents are Baha'is. Doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about that. The Bab said, if a Christian somewhere, I hear that when him whom God will make manifest, when Baha'u'llah was not here yet to our eyes, when he comes, if a Christian believes in him, that Christian will be an apple of mine eye. And you, who are my believers, willing and giving your lives for me, of course they were. If I think that one of you would not believe in him, I will disown you. I will not know you. Exactly what Christ said. I do not know thee. Get thee away from me. Right? When I became a Baha'i, when my mother first learned and kicked me out of my family, she said exactly this same sentence. And I reminded her that. I was like, the Quran says this and condemns it. She said that too. She goes like, you're the best one before this. So it's like, if I was the best one, why wouldn't you hear me? No, 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 no. Now you're lost and you're Satan itself because you pick up this thing I don't want to agree with, right? How dare you? It lives in every single times and people's lives and societies. It's just amazing.